Please don't sacrifice me to any kind of god hand because of this. I didn't fully love the Holy Evil War chapter. I did still like it. I still enjoyed my time reading it, but I think so far it's probably one of my least favorites, and not for any particular reasons or anything. I just think there was a lot going on, and it does work in tandem with one another, and there were so many things that just absolutely blew my mind. The fact that Griffith is fucking back. What? The fact that we had the Berserker armor outfit thingy-mabobby. What? There is so much still to absolutely love about it. I loved the introduction of witches and trolls and ogres, and it had this really fantastical mythological feel to this arc, which was great. It really, really, really was great. But I don't know if maybe because the Golden Age arc was right up here and the Conviction arc was right up here. I think just as a first time reading experience, it just wasn't really my entire favorite. I felt like there was a lot of concepts going on and a lot of world building, which is great. You know, we've expanded the world. I wouldn't say introduce magic, but we did have a lot more focus on magic and how that can help our gang. So all of that was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed. So let's just go back to the beginning and stuff. I was so sad that Godo had died, but I think it was such a beautiful moment. The fact that we don't see him die, we just see his gravestone. And when do we ever have peaceful deaths in Berserk? So I feel like this was such a needed moment for a character, especially someone who has meant quite a bit to Guts. You know, he hasn't really fully outright said how much he's meant to him, but you know, Godo has really, really helped Guts on his journey, especially with the Dragon Slayer blade and his armor and stuff like that. It's just he has been so needed. So to have a nice peaceful death was, you know, it's a breath of fresh air. But when we saw Griffith, I was like, what the hell is going on here? It's such a complex moment in scene as well, because even when Guts sees him, he says something like, I didn't have the urge to kill, because it's Griffith. It's the before Femto, it's before his, you know, his torture, he looks and sounds just like the Griffith that we did love at one point. Even my feelings are very, very conflicted right now. After everything he's done, he did sacrifice his friends, and as Femto, he did what he did to Casca, and I will never ever forgive him. I will never ever do that. But there is a part of me that is I want things to go back to normal. I want the golden age back. I want the good old days back, you know? I want that camaraderie again, because the Band of the Hawk meant so much. And even to me now, the more that I read of the story, the more I'm realizing how much I think the Band of the Hawk was so pivotal, not just to Guts, but to me as a reader. It was so needed. And even getting a brief panel of seeing the Band of the Hawk too. Oh my god, I was gonna cry. You know, later on when we have that full spread with companions, and Guts is kind of forming his own new sort of Band of the Hawk. But I feel there is another Band of the Hawk going on at the minute with the return of Griffith and his men, and don't use that name, you know what I mean? Yeah, I was freaking out the entire time that Griffith and Guts were sort of reunited, and the mixed emotions that I had at the same time. So we do travel quite a lot in this arc. We have different scenes, different places. So we did have, you know, the scenes at Godo's, and Guts can't just leave Casca there. He has to take her with him, which I think is so amazing. I love the fact that we have that development with Guts. He isn't leaving anyone behind now. He has readily accepted the people that he loves, the people around him who he sees as his new comrades or his new companions. In that growth, I've never been more proud of Guts in my life. He has just come such a long way. But still very tragic with Guts and Casca. This is turning into one tragic love story. The fact that two people with a brand can't stay in the same place as one another, essentially, it just spells disaster. Which is why I do love the introduction of, the witch, and I can't ever remember her name because it's a little bit of a tricky one to pronounce. I wouldn't even know how to pronounce it. So we'll just call the little witch girl. I will most likely get their names better with the next arc, I promise. There's just a lot of characters to remember, a lot of names to remember, and every single arc just builds and builds and builds on that, and the cast of characters just opens up so vastly. So please forgive me, you know who I mean. So with the return of Griffith, I'm just wondering what that will spell for the story, you know, because with Griffith, his ambition is still to have his own kingdom. And I'm that's great, okay? That is great. I was rooting for Griffith at one point, and now that he's back, obviously I'm not rooting for him now, but at the same time I'm still very intrigued to see how he goes about that. And the fact that he does return to his original plan of, you know, incorporating Princess Charlotte into it. He is a god hand. He could probably obliterate every single person if he wanted to, you know, he's very, very powerful, but he's gone back to the way that he was. And I think that's so interesting because, he is, I say a man of morals and stuff, but like he is smart. Like I do think Griffith is very smart and he wants to win it. You know, he doesn't just want to take it, he wants to win it. And I think that is so evident in the way that he has incorporated Charlotte back into the story. The way that he is like taking Midland and like getting all of these people under his sort of rule, I guess. Because I feel like he wants the adoration and the love of the people more so than just like taking over this land just like that, you know? But then I'm like, where does his ambition take him? So when he does end up getting this kingdom, right? Which I think he will. Where will his ambition take him next after that? Once he gets his kingdom, what next? What next? Which is why I think there is no end to his ambition. And I don't think just getting a kingdom will be good enough for him. I feel like he will end up wanting to get Guts and Casca back under his sort of command. I feel like as much as he has this incredible thing going on for him right now, after hitting rock bottom, I feel like he will want Guts and Casca. I don't think those feelings will ever go away. And it's very evident when Guts does reunite with Griffith and he sees him, he's like, my urge to kill wasn't there, like for a second. It's a complicated history between them. And I don't think a lot of those feelings and the relationships that they build up with one another in the Golden Age arc will just dissipate. I think there are some incredible layers to it that I think will take a therapist to understand and not just like some amateur reader here. So the fact that Griffith ends this arc chapter with getting Charlotte, I love the reversal of that like Sleep and Beauty kind of storyline, because it was talking about how Charlotte had woken up after like the pricking of her finger and Griffith tastes her blood. Yeah, we kind of reversed that fairy tale, and for an arc that felt very fairy tale-esque with the ogres and the trolls, it felt very fitting. Like, the more I talk about the stories and the arcs that I read, the more I end up liking them more. I think it's one thing to just read them and enjoy them, and I couldn't stop reading. I'm already halfway through the next arc, by the way. I'm already halfway through the Falconia chapter. I could not stop reading last night, so I'm trying to make sure that I separate the chapters so I don't accidentally talk about the next one. But no, I feel like Berserk is one thing when you experience it yourself reading through it for the first time, and another thing when you're actually talking about it and dissecting it and analysing it and all of that. So I think the more I talk about it, the more I'm liking it more. Because it is epic. Like, there's so many epic moments. I also want to know what Rickard's dream is. Rickard mentioned something about Griffith, and yeah, there's something a little bit odd there. I'm wondering what Rickard's dream. Rickard's dream is probably to reunite the whole Band of the Hawk again or something. But yes, now we actually have a sort of goal as well for Casca, and we are going to try and take her to Elfhelm, you know, Puck's home. And I think having that clear goal is going to be so interesting, and that whole journey there, yeah, it's going to open up so many different possibilities for the plot, and I like that we have that clear direction. Raxus as well, that freaky looking thing, I'm kind of scared of. It's that mask, it covers something, and I don't like it when you can't fully see what you're fighting or the person in front of you. It's kind of like this whole arc and this whole story actually has just been filled with masks. You know, Griffith wears a mask, not just in the terms of femtor, but I just think the way he presents himself to other people, he's wearing a mask to cover his inner whatever's going on inside. He still seems so charming. He still seems so enigmatic. He's still trying to win me over, and I'm like, stop that. No, you've done awful things. So I think that's why Raxus is scaring me a little bit more. It's also a little bit like Serpico. Like, I'm loving Serpico and how like clever and stuff he is, but he's a very hard character to read. And again, I think that kind of scares me, makes me a little bit uneasy as well, because I can't predict him. You know, I think when it comes to the big monsters that Guts fights and he's like slashing his sword at, you can kind of predict a little bit that the result of that battle will be Guts winning. I mean, it'll be a struggle. It will definitely be a struggle, but, you know, you can kind of, you know, see what's coming. But when it comes to characters like Serpico or Raxus, it's like, who are you? Like, what can we do to overcome you? And not that I think we have to overcome Serpico, but he's just like very interesting, you know? We did have this whole like flashback thing with Farnes and Serpico, and finding out that they're half related. That was interesting. It was a little bit of a slow going kind of series of events though, so I think that might be why this arc is just not exactly my favorite. It was very needed though, because I think it does shine more light on Farnes as a character as well as Serpico. But even then, Serpico's flashback, tragic, of course, like what he had to do to his own mother. Oh my god. But like, I think it's still focused a lot more heavily on Farnes. And she, oh man, she again still intrigues the fuck out of me. She is so, I can't even explain it. Like, she's had such a character arc, and such a quick one too, because when you think about the Conviction arc as a whole, that was only the previous arc, and we already here with Fonnes as a character. It's incredible. But yeah, even Serpico, he won't even show his hand to Fonnes, as in like, his tactics, his brain, what he's thinking. Because when Fonnes keeps getting him into duels and stuff, which was funny, she says, why wouldn't you fight seriously? Your sword skills should have been enough to win any of those duels easily. And he says, not at all, you give me too much credit. And she can tell, like, he's not seeing everything. Like, he is a mystery. Like, he won't show anyone his hand, even those he loves, his friends. I do think he cares a whole great deal about Fonnes, and I think he's proven that time and time again. But I still think maybe he doesn't quite trust everyone around him. I think he still wants something for himself, so that if there ever comes a time when either his friends betray him or Furness betrays him, he has something to hold on to and something to escape with. It's kind of like his, maybe, I don't know, maybe he has like some kind of fail-safe kind of plan. I don't know. We're just spitballing here. We're just spitballing. So yeah, Fonnes, we do end up seeing that she has more of a thing for whipping, for blood, and fire. Like, she's weird. She is very weird. She has a lot of stuff going on, like, mentally. And I wasn't sure about this whole, like, fire thing, because it seemed like, you know, I think it was in the previous arc when she is touching herself and she's thinking of fire. She is thinking of someone burning alive. And for a second, I don't think I mentioned it in the previous update because I wasn't too sure what that really meant, and I wasn't sure if maybe she like was turned on by people dying by fire, but I think it's a lot more than that. I don't think it's like that at all. We see that when Fonnes is a child, she is very much neglected by her mum and dad, and the only time she ever really gets attention is when she does things that like, you know, like setting the people burning alight kind of thing. So it just honestly seems like she was craving attention from her parents from a very young age and kind of needed some kind of guidance. She genuinely needed guidance from a young age and she didn't get it, which is why I think it's so important that she is now kind of a follower of Guts. Like, she sees him as that like whole prophet thing, or, you know, she just needs something to follow, someone to follow. And I think, you know, the whole fire thing kind of ties into that, but I was a bit confused why she was touching herself thinking of fire. So yeah, I'm very excited to get to Elfhelm. There was a really interesting scene, and again, like, this is tying back to the fact that Casca is always almost essayed. Like, it's getting like such a problem now. You know, I'm so glad that Guts was there, but then he kind of has this sort of transformation as this like wolf type thing, which I think is really just a manifestation of his uncontrollable rage, more so that he's actually turning into a wolf, because I was a little bit confused by that to begin with. And just like the way he looked, I think, especially, you know, going back to what Godo had said about, you know, him repressing his sorrow and he's going on this rampage and how that's, you know, cracking his sword and blah, blah, blah. I do think that's just like a manifestation of his uncontrollable rage. And, you know, it ties into when we finally get to the Berserker armor later on. But I, you know, just talking about that scene where, yeah, Casca's in the woods, men are about to, oh, word her. He kind of has this moment. And I think that was so, I don't want to keep saying interesting because I think every fucking thing in Berserk's interesting. But that whole scene bit there, it does shine another light on Guts. You know, this also monster that's inside of him. And there are so many times when he's likened to a monster and he looks and resembles a monster when he's tearing down these monsters. So it's just like, what's he turning into, you know? And I think, yeah, I think maybe that was just a manifestation of all of those feelings, the repression of his true emotions, just kind of like blasting out. And again, I could be wrong, but this is just like my kind of first initial read through of this series, so I'm sure we'll get there eventually. And also, it's like now pouring down with rain. I love living in the UK. Oh, but also I love the fact that Casca killed the man herself. She wasn't a damsel in distress in that moment, which she has been for such a long time now, it feels like. And the fact that she got to kill him herself, I got this little glimpse of her again. I got a glimpse of the old Casca, and I think that was so important for me to remember what she used to be like and what we are striving towards now in our goals of getting to Elfhelm. I can't remember if it was in like the next arc bit that it was mentioned, but she can get her memory back and become the old Casca again. When she gets there, there is someone there in Elfhelm who could help, and I am holding on to that hope like no other. I need Casca back so badly. Probably as badly as Guts needs her back, to be honest. I love the fact that so many people want to learn from Guts as well. Isidro wants to learn from Guts, Fonnes wants to learn from Guts, and it's so funny that Guts has now become this kind of accidental leader, mentor kind of person. But to see Guts slowly start to like open himself up too, oh, so beautiful, so honestly beautiful. And like, yeah, we're getting this whole kind of new band of the Hawk. We have our little team, and I love this little team, honestly. I'm connecting with them so much. And, you know, as much as I love the Band of the Hawk from the Golden Age arc and, you know, Pippin and everyone, I'm really getting so attached with these characters. And it's going to tear my heart out if and when they meet a grisly end, because it's going to have to happen. It's going to have to happen. I don't feel like we've gotten really like grisly, terrible deaths of people we love for a long time. I feel a little bit too safe right now, especially after the conviction arc and that whole, you know, thing happening. We had quite a lot of people survive that, and I feel like that is kind of lulling me into a false sense of security. Farnese cutting her hair, that was so symbolic. It has to be symbolic. It's like she's shedding her like former self, like her skin from before. She is now all in on Guts, on protecting Casca, and I love the fact that she has protected Casca quite a lot in this arc. The fact that she has gone in harm's way to protect Casca too. You cannot deny that she has turned an absolute corner there. Actually, yeah, I think one of the reasons why I didn't fully 100% love this arc is because it's very war heavy and allegiance heavy. There are a lot of things going on, like politics wise, that I don't usually care for in stories. It's not really my go-to or really my thing. I know some of that happened in the Golden Age arc, but I think the Golden Age arc had a whole lot other stuff going for it as well. I mean, this one does too. But just so you know, like as a reader, I just don't gravitate towards the war heavy, the political heavy, the, you know, all of that. So that kind of probably does affect my enjoyment somewhat. There was a moment when this guy, what was his name again? Locus, I think his name was Locus. There was a moment when he says, though two people hold a grudge, in the end they are the same human. I expect if you make your place in this band, you will come to know that your former enemies are not so different from you. And I can't help but think of Guts and Griffith. I feel like they are pretty much nearly the same person. They have so many parallels, and they really do go hand in hand so many times, but they also oppose each other so strongly also. But I just have this vision, you know, with them saying, in the end, they are the same human, and you'll come to know that your former enemies are not so different from you. I feel like there's just going to be a lot more with that when it comes to Guts and Griffith. You know, we're going to see a lot more of their similarities. I'm trying not to jump right ahead to, like, what the end of Berserk would be in terms of Guts and Griffith. I do feel like there's going to be some kind of fight between them, but I just don't know if maybe Griffith's ambition will be his downfall and Guts's revenge, his anger will be his downfall, and they kind of like cancel each other out and maybe, I don't know, take each other down. I don't know how it's gonna go, but I love little moments like this where it kind of makes me think of that, where it makes me try to think ahead on these characters. There's a character called Grumbelt who I thought looked a little bit like Guts. But that's like a little bit of a side kind of comment. I don't really have much thought on there. And I won't mention absolutely everything that happens in these arcs if I don't think I have something to talk about it. Like, it's not because I've forgotten about something. It's not because I've missed it. It's just because I just don't think I can put an opinion on it, or I just didn't think I could add to the conversation on that. But please let me know down below in the comments if you think I should talk about something. If there's something I have, you know, not talked about in this vlog. Oh, Isidro and Guts practicing. Oh my gosh, I got flashbacks a little bit to, oh god, I've forgotten his name now. There have been so many characters. Guts and Gambino. Guts and Gambino. It's a testament to me that I do remember so many character names. Like, I get there eventually. It kind of reminded me of that, but in a good way. It's almost like Guts is trying to be better than Gambino. It's like the good parts of Gambino. Like, Gambino wasn't terrible the entire time, but the good parts of Gambino was when he was connecting with Guts, when he was, you know, practice fighting with Guts and stuff like that. Well, other than the time he cut his nose. But you know what I mean? There were some good memories that Guts has of Gambino. And I think he's taken that, and then he's kind of breaking the cycle of abuse by not doing what Gambino does to Isidro. You know, it's like, I don't know, he's coming across as so fatherly. Farnese is coming through strong again. She is feeling like she's not useful. And I think that's a commentary on the nobility of this world. Like, they can't really do anything but be this kind of superficial presence. You know, like, when it comes to actual fight, when it comes to actual real world issues, they're kind of useless, you know? They're kind of just trinkets and commodities in this world. And that's what Farnese is trying to kind of work through. Not only is she working through her faith, but also her kind of family roots, her nobility and stuff like that. So again, like, such an interesting character. When Isidro comes across that poor man with the food, And then the man is like giving him some, and Izzy was all like thankful. But then he like punches the man. He's like, hand him all over, you stingy bastard. Grown boys need nourishment. That he is so funny. Like, he is so good. Like, he's becoming one of my favorite characters. But as comic relief, you know, I feel like I have my favorite characters, say like the Golden Globes or the Oscars or whatever. I feel like I have my best actors in drama and my best actors in comedy. Isidro, Puck, Ivalira. You know, the Witch Girl's elf. They're like in the comedy side. And then we have like Guts, Foness, in the like the drama side, in Serpico, of course. They're in the drama side, you know, so I feel like I have my different favourite characters in categories. But yeah, I love the introduction of trolls. I love the introductions of witches. That whole magic side of things, witches are like my favourite sort of like magical beings ever. Like, I love witches so much. And I will try and learn this girl's name pronunciation. Is it like, I don't want to say it because you guys will laugh at me. Is it like Shirky? Oh my god, I'm just going to say Witch Girl because I feel like you guys will really rip into me. And I do want to look up a pronunciation guide, but I don't want any spoilers for Berserk. So you're just going to get Witch Girl for now. But I honestly do love the whole like witch house being in the trees or like growing from the trees, and it's just like how natural and good witchcraft is. You know, we've had so many instances where it seems like the witches are like bad and they're being persecuted and they are associated with evil, but actually, you know, there are so many role reversals in Berserk that just the introduction of the witch girl and her mentor was so needed and just so brilliant. I love the whole way that magic works. The folklore and fairy tale vibes are strong with this arc. Again, like, the more I talk about it, the more I love it. And I do appreciate the witch exploring the brand and the astral world more. Like, we're learning more about the astral world and how that works in with our world, and, you know, the whole like eclipse and getting the fifth god hand, like Femtor Griffith becoming the fifth god hand has kind of upset like a lot of the balance and stuff. Again, I'm like working through my thoughts on this, so I might be wrong on some of these, but like it feels like ever since that moment the astral world and the physical world has just been at odds with one another, and that's why we've been getting so many more like villainous monsters and things coming through. So I really do appreciate more of the explanations of it. And also this interesting tidbit too. Long ago it was quite natural to believe in the existence of elves, but with the spread of the doctrine of the Holy See, of one universal worldview, those who can see them have dwindled. So many of the elves who can no longer interact with humans have faded away to some place in the astral world. And again, like the Holy See, religion kind of being like, it's covering people's eyes from some of the truth of the world. I'm not trying to criticize like religion or anything like that. I'm definitely not doing that. But it's kind of like the Holy See or a lot of these religious figures are either trying to protect people by, you know, keeping them in the dark and keeping them ignorant. A little bit like God in the Garden of Eden, not wanting Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge, I think it was. It's been a while since I've like studied the Bible and stuff. But that whole thing there feels like it's trickling down into Berserk and the themes of religion. It's like you have those who are ignorant to the real world and what's actually happening versus the people who aren't ignorant and can then end up defending themselves. And there have been so many instances where innocent people have lost their lives or just like not being prepared for attacks like that, which perfectly juxtaposes the little witch girl and the priest figure person that we meet in the village that is being ravaged by trolls. So we have those two things at play and they're at odds with one another. Really, really, again, interesting. Take a shot every time I say interesting. But like there's just like a whole kind of covering up of the truth sometimes. But is it malicious? Are they just trying to protect people in terms of like the Holy See? I think it's a lot more complex than them just covering up the truth, making people ignorant so that they lose their lives and stuff like that. I think it's a lot more than that. Oh my god, when Isidro tries to spy on Casca and Foness, and the little witch girl is like hitting him on the head like she's got him tied up, and like it's a really tiny moment that's in the background of a panel, like blink and you'll miss it kind of thing. It's very easy to miss, but I'm trying so hard to make sure that I see everything, and there are so many moments like that that's happening in the background that is just so funny and so good. So I just wanted to mention that because I loved it. It kind of made me really enjoy this little witch girl too, and he is a little creep, so he got what was coming to him. Oh my god, and a little Star Wars reference with Puck becoming Yoda, and perhaps for now I'm his master, you'd say, or deep into the dark side this young one is. It's just like so good. Like the humor in this is just absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, we have Foness protecting Cat. Has a bird just shit on my window? Anyway, we have Foness protecting Casca, which I thought was very monumental. We have them going to the village and protecting them from all the trolls and the ogres and stuff, which was fantastic. Love that whole fight scene and stuff. On Kelpies, we had Kelpies too. That was so awesome. But yeah, the priest was being a bit dumb. for my liking. He was like, oh, she's a witch, she must be condemned, that's unnatural and stuff like that. But like, it turns out it actually saved the day. And Farnese, honestly, I feel like I talk about him more than I talk about Guts at this point. But like, Farnese, she sees a lot of the old her in him and how ignorant she was to the world. Oh, and then when Guts says to the little witch girl, that being said, we're at your service, Miss Witch. Oh my god. Oh my god, you know what I mean? It's like, that's Guts. That's Guts. Like, he's come such a long way. I'm so proud. I cannot tell you how proud I am of him. I'm just... Oh yeah, there was this whole flood scene, which I thought was fantastic too, that the witch girl does. Like, she kind of invokes or gets possessed by the water spirit, which has this grudge against this town, which is why she can't really control it after a while, and she's needed to be brought back to reality. Again, like, some biblical imagery though with the whole like flood and, you know, like Noah's Ark, and I think there might be some like biblical references there, but I could just be reading too much into it. Oh, and then when Guts turns to Farnese, who, you know, was, you know, protecting Casca, and even though the two of them got swept away and stuff still, like, she was still putting her life on the line. But when Guts says to her, the things you do are a big help, I'm grateful. Oh, like, I could cry. I literally could cry. Like, and it's not even that huge deal of a moment for me as a reader, really. But when I see them bonding, when I see them coming together, seeing Farnese feel useful, and like, you know, I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, but I can't tell you just like how many emotions I'm feeling while I'm reading this story, because I'm so invested in the characters more than anything else. I love the story, but I love the characters. And he's even proud of Isidro with the bombing kind of stuff. Oh, and how Guts has inspired them. Like, and when Guts, oh my god, and this is huge for Guts too, when Guts goes to, you know, kill the remaining like trolls in Yoga by himself, and he's told Farnese to look after Casca, and this is Isidro and Serpico and stuff, but Guts, he says, I haven't felt this sensation in a while, not worrying about anyone behind me, swinging my sword without anything binding me, cutting loose all my ferocity. He trusts his friends. Like, I think, do you know how much his trust was broken after the eclipse? I don't blame him. You know, he was betrayed so heavily. He was betrayed by a friend, someone he got really close with. So he lost all trust and faith, in my own personal reading, in everyone. Apart from, like, obviously Casca and stuff. But, like, this moment when he says, I haven't felt a sensation in a while, not worrying about anyone behind me, it's like, hey, everyone else has it. Everyone else is doing their own thing. I don't need to worry about someone stabbing me in the back kind of thing. I can do my thing, I can get on with my thing, and not worry about anything. Like, trust. We have trust. One thing I will say is that the Skull Knight does seem to save Guts a lot. A lot. Like, he really, really does. You know, he got him out the eclipse, and I'm not saying it's like too much of a bad thing. I do still think Guts needs a lot more training, I guess. So like the amazing moment when Guts faces off with Slan, who is so incredible looking. I love her design so much. So Guts does need saving from her, so which is why like the Skull Knight is there and stuff, but like I'm hoping, as much as I love this Skull Knight, I love exploring more about him, I would love for a bit less of saving Guts at the last moment kind of things. You know, I would love a little bit less of that. But again, that's not really affecting my enjoyment. But, you know, exploring more of how the world's overlapping, more of the, like, astral world and stuff. Like, that was really interesting. I love the scene with Slan. Like, that was really, really cool. But yeah, getting back to when Guts, like, escapes from that situation, and they go back to the witch's house, and the mentor, she is, like, burning. She's dying. It's been attacked. Like, the whole place has been attacked by the new Band of the Hawk. No, keep my wife's name out your goddamn mouth. I cannot stand the fact that they're masquerading themselves as the new Band of the Hawk. That's just disgusting to me. It's like spitting on the memory of those we lost. It feels disgusting. As Guts is fighting Grumbeld, Flora is the name of the witch mentor. Why can the little witch girl's name be that easy? But yeah, Guts is shown the Berserker armor. It is fucking insane. It is incredible. I can't even wrap my head around it. I'm kind of scared of it. And literally in my notes, all I wrote was, oh my fucking god. What? You know what I mean? And also, the Berserker armor makes me think of the Skull Knight. It kind of looks very Skull Knight-esque in the way that the Skull Knight says something about, or was it Flora? It was either of them, saying that Guts and the little witch girl reminds them of the Skull Knight and Flora, that kind of dynamic and stuff. And considering what the Berserker armor does, can't help but feel like that's maybe something that might have happened to the Skull Knight. I know the Skull Knight, when we were saving Griffith, there was that whole idea of the kingdom under Midland that I believe the Skull Knight was the king of. So I do know that there is a lot of history there that I'm really excited to explore. But I'm wondering if maybe the Skull Knight had some kind of Berserker armor himself, And that's what he ended up becoming, especially since the Skull Knight is very adamant about the pros and cons of wearing this armor. He surpasses the limits of the human body at the risk of his own life. And yeah, so it's kind of made explicit that the armor makes him ignore his pain. You know, this whole stuff about how we need to feel pain in order for us to not kill ourselves kind of thing. We need to feel that pain. And that's something that Guts himself is trying so hard to ignore. It's a huge theme of exploring Guts' character. He has been running away in the past from his true emotions, his feelings, leaving Casca behind and stuff like that, has kind of led to this moment. And this Berserker armor, I think, is a manifestation of Guts running away from pain and feelings and emotions. And it's kind of interesting again. The way I say it, this armor isn't making him strong, it's just allowing him to exact his own strength without limitation, without anything holding him back. And I think what this armor will end up doing is showing him how damaging that will be for him physically and even emotionally too. He surpasses the limits of the human body at the risk of his own life. Like, I'm kind of scared of this armor, honestly. Like, it looks cool, it looks amazing, and Guts fights incredibly with it. Like, even his arm and leg are facing the wrong way. And then it's like reinforcing his broken limbs by piercing through his flesh and biting into his bones. Like, that's not good. That is not good. In the long run, it's not good. I heard a previous owner of the armor was similarly devoured by its steel teeth as he continued fighting until the last of his blood gushed forth and all his bones were broken. I just feel like something might have happened with a Skull Knight in a similar vein or something. But like, I just don't think the armor is a good idea in the long run. Like, as cool as it is, and the fact that there is this black kind of smoke around the sword too, like Guts' sword. And I feel like that has always been there, but we've never seen it before. Or something like that. I don't know. Like, again, I'm not 100% sure on everything that I'm reading, which is where you lovely folk come in. Not feeling the pain will slowly kill him, yeah. He actually needs the pain to survive in the long run. But he's kind of using this as a way of not feeling that, just so he can continue to push himself forward. I just don't think it's a good idea. The whole Berserk armor thing, I am absolutely fascinated by. I think it's incredible. It's so epic. But I just think it's totally going to ruin Guts in the long run. So yeah, Wyndham is a shithole now, I wrote, to kind of end this part. It feels very much like Bloodborne. I know Bloodborne and the Dark Souls games and stuff were inspired by Berserk. And genuinely Wyndham, with all these like dead people and like how deserted the place feels, it feels like Bloodborne. And I love that so much. I love the vibes, I love the aesthetic, it's incredible. And we got to see Foss again. I was missing him. I was missing Foss. He is someone I do enjoy seeing. And we also end up meeting the Emperor of the Kushan Empire. And I'm like, oh, is he like the next big bad? Like, he seems very cool too. So yeah, we ended the arc with Charlotte and Griffith, and I think that was a really good way of ending it, because it adds so much more intrigue and power to what we're going to end up reading next. I know I started this whole section off saying I didn't fully love this chapter. I did love it. It's still probably not my favourite one so far, but it was interesting. But I'm probably even more scared now for Guts' well-being with the Berserker armor. It's something that I'm really gonna continue watching closely. It could end up being the thing that tears Guts away from his human life in a way, especially if it makes him go down the route of the Skull Knight potentially, which again could be totally bollocks and I could be absolutely wrong on that, but I don't know, it feels like we're heading down a very dark path and I'm getting really scared. And a lot of people have been surviving up to this point too, and I'm just wondering when's the next time we're going to have people dying unexpectedly, and God, my emotions. I think I need the Berserker armor myself to stop me from feeling what's probably going to be incoming pain.